Leaders with Clark Atlanta University say they are aware of this video right here that's showing up on social media that shows a young college woman being attacked by a Morehouse College student. This happened off campus on Lucky Street in downtown Atlanta.
Atlanta News First, Yasmina Alston reports from the Fulton County Jail where one of the alleged attackers was taken after his arrest.
A Morehouse College student is facing charges in an attack caught on camera. 21-year-old Matthew Gonzalez Forrestine, a Morehouse student, was charged with aggravated assault and terroristic threats for allegedly joining in on an attack against a young woman. Atlanta police say the young woman, who is a Clark Atlanta University student, was riding a bus to an apartment building on Lucky Street when a man stepped on her foot and walked away as if nothing happened. According to investigators, the woman said something to the man about what happened, and she then claims the man's girlfriend confronted and pushed her. The woman told officers the man then joined into the assault, attempting to choke her until witnesses broke it up. We spoke with people who heard about what happened and thought the reaction was too extreme.
You could just be like, I'm sorry, I apologize, and it just been gone from there. But sometimes I do just take stuff way too far.
Clark Atlanta's president, George French, said in a letter that he is deeply concerned by the assault and that they are working with Atlanta police. Morehouse College said the behavior in the video is disappointing. We did attempt to reach out to the young woman, who also posted about the incident on social media, saying she just wanted an apology after he stepped on her foot.
I don't like dudes that try to put their hands on females. I feel like y'all try to intimidate females, like on some controlling type stuff, and I don't like that.
In Fulton County, Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First.